Welcome to Southwest Desert, where adventure meets the arid beauty of the American Southwest. Join me as we explore Southwest's lost historical characters, stunning desert vistas, forgotten Native American history, or tales of lost gold mines. There's always something new to discover. Subscribe now and hit the bell icon so you don't miss out on our latest desert adventures. Let's journey together into the heart of the Southwest Desert. Sit back and enjoy. Welcome, listeners, to another episode of Southwest Desert. Today we're diving into a tale that combines the allure of hidden treasure, the mystique of Native American lore, and the relentless pursuit of fortune that defined the American frontier. Get ready for the story of the lost gold of the Potholes. Imagine, if you will, a vast expanse of eastern Utah, where the rugged Rocky Mountains give way to sprawling plains. It's here, in this unforgiving landscape, that our story unfolds. A story of gold nuggets as plentiful as pebbles, of fortunes made and lost, and of a secret that has eluded treasure hunters for generations. Our tale begins with whispers and rumors, carried on the wind like tumbleweeds across the prairie. In the early days of westward expansion, when buffalo still roamed in great herds and trappers were the vanguard of civilization, stories began to circulate. Buffalo hunters, trappers, and scouts, the hardy souls who braved the untamed wilderness, all spoke of something extraordinary. Picture a campfire scene where grizzled frontiersmen swap tales over cups of bitter coffee. One man leans in, his voice low and conspiratorial, as he speaks of the Snake Native Americans of Utah. These Native Americans, he claims, have been seen trading gold nuggets for supplies, nuggets so large and plentiful that they filled buckskin pouches to bursting. But the Snake Indians guarded their secret jealously. Even to white men they considered friends, they refused to reveal the source of their golden wealth. It was said that the Native American women would disappear into the wilderness, only to return with these fabulous riches. But from where? That was the tantalizing question that set many a prospector's heart racing. As often happens with such tales, word spread. Letters from these frontier adventurers made their way back east, igniting the imaginations of those who dreamed of striking it rich in the Wild West. And it's here that we meet the protagonists of our story, two young men fresh out of Yale, their heads filled with visions of gold and glory. Thank you for joining your desert frontiersman Alan for another lost gold story. If you would like to support my channel and time, hit the super thanks heart icon on the bottom of the video and contribute. Sit back and enjoy. Frank Lane had just graduated from Yale Law School when one of these enticing letters fell into his hands. Instead of settling into a comfortable legal practice in some eastern city, Lane made a decision that would change his life forever. He decided to try his luck prospecting in the Snake Country before committing to a career in law. But Lane wasn't about to embark on this adventure alone. He partnered up with another college graduate, a man we'll call John Howard for the purposes of our story. Together, these two greenhorns set out for the West, their hearts full of hope and their minds brimming with dreams of the fortune that awaited them. Two fresh-faced Easterners, more accustomed to lecture halls than mountain trails, heading out into the vast unknown of the American West. They must have been quite a sight to the seasoned frontiersmen they encountered along the way. For months, Lane and Howard scoured the Colorado Rockies, learning the hard way that prospecting wasn't as simple as just showing up and striking it rich. They discovered a few low-grade gold quartz ledges, but nothing to write home about. As winter approached, they found themselves pushed out of the mountains and onto the plains of eastern Utah, the very territory where the Snake Indians were said to roam. But the plains proved no more forgiving than the mountains. Day after day, week after week, The two men searched in vain for that elusive mother lode. And as spring approached, Frank Lane's resolve began to waver. The dream that had seemed so attainable back in New Haven now felt as distant as the snow-capped peaks on the horizon. It was at this low point that Lane made a fateful decision. He would return east, back to the life he knew, leaving Howard to continue the search alone. And so, with a handshake and perhaps a heavy heart, Frank Lane turned his back on the frontier and headed home, never knowing how close he had come to unimaginable wealth. Now, dear listeners, you might think this is where our story ends, with one man giving up on his dreams and another left alone in the wilderness. But in fact, this is where the true adventure begins. John Howard, now the sole owner of their prospecting outfit, decides to take a break from his endless search. He mounts his trusty mule and heads out for a short hunting trip on the surrounding plains. Lady Luck, it seems, had been waiting for just this moment to smile upon our protagonist. As Howard returned from a successful antelope hunt, he stopped at one of the many potholes that dotted the landscape to water his mule and quench his own thirst. These potholes, depressions in the rock often filled with rainwater, were a common sight in the area. But this particular pothole held more than just water. As Howard bent down to drink, the noonday sun hit the water just right, illuminating the bottom of the shallow pool. And there, glinting in the sunlight, lay pieces of yellow ore. With trembling hands, Howard waded into the water and scooped up a handful of the shining nuggets. In that moment he knew. He had found it. The legendary gold of the Snake Native Americans was real, and he was holding it in his very hands. Imagine the rush of emotions Howard must have felt in that moment. Excitement, disbelief, maybe even a twinge of regret that his partner wasn't there to share in the discovery. But there was no time for such thoughts. Howard rushed back to camp, grabbed his gold pan, and returned to the pothole to work until the sun set. As darkness fell, Howard made his way back to camp with an estimated $700 worth of gold from just one afternoon's work in a single pothole. But this was just the beginning. For weeks, Howard lived off the land, hunting game and panning gold from the numerous potholes that dotted the iron-stained mesas around a great granite mountain. When winter's chill began to creep across the plains once more, Howard knew it was time to cash in his newfound wealth. He made his way to the nearest settlement, his saddlebags heavy with buckskin pouches full of gold nuggets. When the dust settled, Howard found himself the owner of a fortune worth nearly $100,000, an astronomical sum in those days. Now, you might think this is where our hero rides off into the sunset set for life. But the story of John Howard and the pothole gold takes another turn. Howard did indeed return east with his fortune, but like many who come into sudden wealth, he found that keeping money can be harder than finding it. Through a series of bad investments, Howard watched his hard-earned fortune slowly slip away, and so, many years later, with his pockets considerably lighter, he decided to return to the scene of his incredible discovery. But the West is a vast and changeable place, and Howard found that relocating his golden potholes was no easy task. Whether Howard simply couldn't find the right location, or whether the potholes had been worked out in his absence, the result was the same. Not a single nugget of gold rewarded his search. And so, the legend of the pothole gold grew. Old-time cowboys and sheep herders would speak of a place in eastern Utah they called the Potholes, but none ever reported finding the kind of wealth Howard had stumbled upon years before. Some versions of the story suggest that the potholes Howard described weren't natural formations at all. Instead, they say, these were excavations made by Snake Native American women in a gravel conglomerate, the very source of the gold nuggets that had sparked the legend in the first place. If this version is to be believed, then somewhere out there in the wilds of eastern Utah, a fortune still waits to be discovered. A great bed of gravel conglomerate, studded with nuggets of gold, just waiting for some lucky prospector to stumble upon it. And so, dear listeners, we come to the end of our tale. The story of John Howard and the Pothole gold joins the ranks of legendary lost treasures that have captivated the American imagination for generations. But perhaps the real treasure isn't the gold itself, but the stories it inspires. Tales of adventure and perseverance, of luck both good and bad, of fortunes won and lost. These are the true riches of the American West, the legends that continue to call to the adventurer in all of us, daring us to strike out into the unknown in search of our own golden dreams. This has been Southwest Desert. I'm your host, thanking you for joining us on this journey into the heart of frontier lore. Until next time, keep your eyes open and your gold pans ready. You never know when you might stumble upon a legend of your own. Happy trails. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe for more great content. Hit the notification bell so you never miss an update. See you in the next video.